things are changing so quickly, and I think disruption has become the new buzzword. And I think already, if you look at the industry, you find that with the threat of the fourth industrial revolution, we actually find that even the verticals, the different sectors in terms of agriculture, technology, they are becoming seamless. The lines are becoming blurred. So the fourth industrial revolution is actually promising us that technology is now starting to become so pervasive, we no longer even going to have those standalone technologies. So it's not going to matter whether you are in agriculture anymore, whether you're in transport, they all become so synonymous with the fourth industrial revolution. So for somebody like me who keeps threatening to retire, I think it becomes so much more enticing with things like artificial intelligence, with things like big data, machine learning now becoming buzzwords that I never thought of, 20 years ago. So it's a very exciting space to be in right now.
And it speaks to something which is quite critical, which is disruptive thinking. And so often we are taught and we learn particular practices and processes and things that, like you say, now at this particular time that we live in, need to be separated because these things are becoming more interactive going forward. Disruptive thinking within a corporate like Cisco, how do you cultivate that kind of culture?
So I think one of the nice things, Gugu, is that in an environment like Cisco, they practice a lot of risk-taking. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, we had the minister in the presidency and his team and quite a number of SOEs who had come with the group of young ambassadors, about 25 of them over to Cisco's premises to look at how ICT can enable the National Development Plan 2030. Wow. They were actually looking to Cisco to come up with some ideas on how to take the 14 outcomes and actually link these to some type of technology so that these become much more alive and much more relevant to communities, to schools, to hospital, to the public, and and to make them much more tangible. And I think the nice thing is, and I was saying this to the VP, because once again, I think talking about disruptive thinking, I'm based in South Africa and my VP actually sits abroad. So I was actually just saying to her that the good thing for me is that I'm allowed that space to actually take risks. Yeah. And I think for anyone to have that disruptive thinking, you must be allowed that certain space to take risks. You've also got to be allowed that space to collaborate. So you've got to be allowed that space to go out and brainstorm with partners. You've got to go out and talk to Duke, an academic, and say to academia, hey, do you want to partner with me on this? You've got to reach out to Ericsson, who's a strategic partner, and say, Ericsson, I think you're better at doing this portion of the work. Come and talk to government about how they could potentially enable us with this specific aspect. And then, of course, reach out to the millenniums and say to them, you're the ones who live out there in the communities. Yeah. You're the ones who have to put up with the daily pressures of not having access to certain, of the commodities that are so critical. How would I access them if I give you this technology? How does it become relevant? So I think it forces you then to have that disruptive thinking, but once again, only if you're allowed to take certain risks and know that everyone's got your back should something not work out.
Collaboration and taking risks and someone having your back, which actually speaks to mentorship, which I understand is something that you're critically involved in, mentoring young women and men within the technology space. Speak to us about the initiative that you have going and how you hope that will continue this drive of cultivating the culture of disruption in South Africa.
So I think paying it forward is very important to me, Gugu. It's something that, coming from a township myself, having gone through government schooling, and then entering the corporate space at a very, very young age, and having that opportunity to have so many mentors at my disposal, I think I've now decided to take it a bit forward and have sponsorship and mentorship in a toolkit for a lot of these youngsters. So I actually, together with Cindy Koyana, and Shamla Chetty from Duke University, and Mam Becky is actually our patron. We started the mentorship circle. I actually started an organization as well called Afrial, which actually means, bold youth, where we take young men and women, and we've actually given them a very nice challenge. We've said to them that what they need to do within the next year, after we have given them the right training, we've given them the right access to certain leaders within communities and corporates, we've given them the right sponsorship, is come up with a legacy project. So a legacy project either within their organizations, within their communities, or even one for the country. And then they need to announce this within the next year and actually drive that forward. And we're quite fortunate. One of the young gentlemen has already selected a legacy project. He's actually riding on a motorcycle. He's an artist.
Wow.
So young Reggie Kumalo is an artist. He's decided to ride a motorcycle from Cape Town to Casablanca, and he's going to stop at each and every country, and he's actually going to draw a piece of art and actually sell that, and then whatever fees he gets from selling that art, he's going to donate it to a deserving disadvantaged student so they can pay university fees.
Amazing.
So that's, he's paying it forward for what we as the mentorship circle are actually investing in him.
Charmaine, it's a fantastic initiative and very broad thinking. And for someone who's listening at home, they might think, oh goodness, I'm not that bold, I'm not that brave. How do we interpret some of the lessons and outcomes that you've explained into our own personal space, that we also manage to disrupt in our own environments, no matter how big or small the impact might be?
So I think sometimes, and I was actually this weekend, we were down in the Wit Simologong precinct. I also mentor a group of girls called Girl Code. And what they basically doing, so their moonshot is, how do we actually get girls to actually code until girls eventually code the world? Because we've got a shortage of young women in ICT. So I've had these girls under my wing for the past 3 years, and we run hackathons annually during Women's Month. And we're down in the Wits precinct this year. And we were actually just discussing how we have to just do one thing, just one little thing. Even if you just take one student from university and you mentor her, that's enough, So with the Girl Codes, what we do is we take disadvantaged girls from communities and we actually teach them how to code and how to design, all free of charge. And we get sponsorships from large corporates who then help us achieve this objective of attracting more girls into ICT. And we actually run monthly workshops for them starting in January, with us ultimately ending up with the hackathon in the month of August.
Sounds amazing. Feels like I'm missing out on something. And I definitely want to participate and get involved in future. But with regard to technology and science is really leading the charge in future, does it always go back down to having a solid education basis, especially within the science, technology, engineering and mathematics fields?
So I think ultimately it does. I was talking to somebody yesterday who was actually reaching out to me, who was doing their final matric year. And I was trying to just also impress upon them how competitive the workplace is. Because I think a lot of young professionals, when you're in high school, I think you take for granted when you step into the corporate workplace how very smart a lot of the young professionals are and how hard they actually work to actually climb the corporate ladder. We've got a lot of young, hungry South Africans out there, Gugu. It's amazing. I bump across them every day and it's actually so exciting. And once again, this young black South African girl was saying to me, Charmaine, I'm doing so badly in maths. And I said to her, well, let me sponsor you for extra lessons because you need maths in your toolkit for a lot of what you're telling me you're wanting to actually do. And then she said, a lot of what she's wanting to do also needs physical science. So I said to her, well, how about since you're not doing it for your exam, how about we do a bridging year for you for 1 more year? And I said to her, but you do the research and come back to me. And she came back to me with a few options. So a lot of the work that a lot of these students want to step into after their school careers, unfortunately needs maths, science, it needs engineering.
But we can make it exciting.
Absolutely, and it is. So I think I'm in an ICT space, and yet I still manage to do cool work with artists. I still manage to do cool work with chefs because, in our ambassador circle, it's not just ICT professionals. We've got a couple of winemakers in there. We've got a couple of chefs. We've got a couple of academics in there. So it's a nice mixture. We're not very specific in terms of you have to come from the ICT space.
Fantastic. Charmaine, a powerful note to leave it on with regard to education, paying it forward, and of course, having the passion in order to drive through disruptive thinking and innovation going forward. A pleasure having you with us today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us on Disruptors.